All right, welcome to number two of the String Break podcast. Actually, kind of started earlier, but apparently you have to, hit the button that says unmute the microphone. So when I went to watch it back for the first half of this guitar, I was just kind of saying no sound. So take two. I'll just kind of briefly go over what I've done to the guitar so far. This is a guitar that's in for a setup. I've already started it. It's a 1987 Gibson SG that's in for a setup, fret level. I've already done the fret level. The owner also wanted to know what kind of pickups. He just bought it recently at a shop, and he knew that the pickups had been replaced. So I documented the pickups, took these out. They're actually a set of bare knuckles, which are really good pickups out of the UK. So we got that done, and basically, I'm going to start on the fret level. I just did the level. I'm going to crown this. One thing, this guitar is a little bit older, so it has some play on it. So starting to get kind of a flat top rather than a nice crown on it. So I'm going to start, and this is super boring, I know. It's also boring to sit here and talk to yourself on a podcast, but I'm trying it. So I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to mark the top of these so I can crown them and make sure I have a good crown on it, because remember, we want the intonation point to be at the top of the fret, in the center of the fret. So, and maybe one day, if this gets to be a thing that I stay interested in, which it should, I'll buy some better cameras and maybe be able to get a little closer in here. So this, the Sharpie that I'm using, I'm just trying to use the side of it, just the fat side of it, and go down these. Just a nice black line. And then what I do for the polishing, and I can't claim learning this without the person that taught me down on Virginia Beach, Brian Hawkins, the process of polishing the frets. We use microfiber, and a combination of that, and depending on how bad the frets are, we start out with sandpaper. So I usually start out at either 220 or 320, depending on how hammered the frets are. These aren't too bad. I'll probably start at 320 and work my way all the way to 12,000. So I've really gotten to like, I'll just keep walking over here and showing you. I've really gotten to like this Music Nomad fret crowning file. I have a couple other ones. This is the fret Guru crowning file. Kind of the difference in these two fret crowning files is I think the Music Nomad one is just a little dog coming in here. So the Music Nomad is just a little more forgiving, because the fret or the file sides are on the sides, and in the middle it's kind of smooth. So you're not taking too much material or any off of the top. You're just simply crowning the sides of the fret, if that made sense. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. My microphone is right there. So for those of you that are using headphones, enjoy. I know I do. I watch a couple guys that do same kind of thing every time they turn on the vacuum, and I have my headphones on, they blast me out pretty good. It's like an ASMR thing. So we're getting a nice crown on these. I'm sorry if I'm trying to make sure. Looks like we have nobody watching. So it's me and me and me. Trying to make sure I stay in view of both. I have two feeds that go. One that each for the aspect that you would watch on a computer and one for viewing on a phone. So yeah, I'm getting a nice crown on these. I'm going to stand up so I can. Sorry if you're looking at the back of my head. That's probably the best side of my head. And it doesn't take much. Like some of these, it had 3 high frets on it, so I leveled the frets to get those 3 down. For a point of reference, I think I had 2 down here, like 6 and 9, and then right there, which, when you get, you could definitely have a problematic area right here when you get high frets down around the upper register, because if you're playing the high frets, you're definitely going to hear it. It's definitely going to make a buzz. I ensure that the frets are level on every setup, because typically people like nice low action, and I can typically give them low action if the frets are level. And we're just kind of knocking the ridge down on these from years of playing, and then a couple of these I had to do use the file to do some spot leveling. That looks, maybe we can get this one just a little bit. And sometimes I will, this is a good crowning file, but sometimes I'll pull out the fret guru. I need to knock a little off the top or get a better crown on it. These look nice now. So hold on, I'm going to hit mute while I vacuum. I saved you from that. I'm going to check these out. And I'm going to roll over it one more time with, I talked about this earlier when I didn't have the sound on, and I also talked about it on podcast number 1, if you want to go back and take a look at that. So for Black Friday, I bought a couple things tool related. So this is the front rocker that I've been using. I like it a lot. It's made by Skyscraper. I think I've been using those for a couple years. These are made out of aluminum. They're very light. The one that I just got, I talked about the other day, is the StewMac fret rocker. It is heavy for a piece of metal that size. Especially after I'm used to using this for a while. The problem that I had with this is you kind of wear down the center after you're going up and down the files, or up and down the frets so much. So if you get a high spot in the middle of that and it isn't perfectly straight, then it kind of gives you some false indicators on the frets that you may have a high or a rocking fret, if you will. You can take those, and I will eventually. The only reason I got this is it was on sale. For Black Friday, they had it 50% off, so I picked it up. But I'll probably take the other one and put it on a flat sand or sand it down. So I'm just going rechecking my work here, because I did have a couple that were high. So I'm going to work all the way down here. If I use this side. And then we're going to go along with a polishing job. I can probably hand this over there to the camera and let you see. I'm just going right down. I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way. So I'm just going up and down all of these, making sure I don't have any high spots. What I can do is I can hold it up bring it over to the camera. You can barely see, I think, maybe a little black. And I was trying to see if you could see the little black mark. It has a thin black line from the magic marker that we left down through there. So, all right, so I'm super OCD, so I'm gonna get all my tools put away. I hate to have things floating around because then I can't find them, or I run the risk of hitting something on the guitar. So this here I'm gonna take, and I typically do this just protect the pickup. I don't want to get any metal in there because we are going to have like a little bit of metal dust here. And on that note, you see a lot of technicians, and I ain't throwing stones, trust me. But this was pointed out to me by a luthier about tape. So notice I use the green frog tape, if you will, and I do that for a reason. So kind of brought to my attention. I didn't know I used blue tape for years. So this is just a green frog tape. I get it at Lowe's. You can get it at Home Depot, wherever. But if you read on the inside of, in here, the very, very teeny writing in there, on the tape, it'll tell you what is indicated for use on. For instance, the blue tape that I was using for a while and most people use, it says right on it, don't use on nitrocellulose finishes. I'm not saying like every blue tape says that. The one I was using did. And one time it did pull a little bit of the finish off the side of a neck when I was taking the tape off, because that was a maple neck. I had to tape it off. So luckily for me, though, it was a factory flaw in the nitrocellulose on the side of it, and the factory took the guitar back. So it was it the tape? Maybe. Was it not? Who knows? They did say it was a bad batch of guitars that came out with a bad finish on it, and they repaired it for the customer. But I felt like crap because I took a little bit of the finish off the side. So when I was told, I was like, okay, that completely makes sense, because I was using the blue tape. And sometimes, depending on if I have to put it on the finish or not, I'll even tap it on my clothing or whatever to get some of the adhesive off of it, because I don't want to buy somebody's guitar or their finish. All right, so this here, I'm going to start off with, on this one, it's not too bad, so I'm going to use 320 sandpaper. I have a sanding block in there, and I take it, I bend it up. So I'm basically lightly rubbing over these. And again, this is for polishing. I'm lightly going over these frets in a motion where I'm kind of take my hand like that with the little foamy bent up in the middle. So I'm kind of riding up one side, if you will, and then back up the other side, back and forth. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure down, so I don't want to take a lot of material. I also don't want to hit the finish. And that kind of gets us started. I get a nice shine already starting on these. So then I'm going to move to the next thickness. Now I'm out of sandpaper. I'm now into microfiber. So sometimes if the frets are really hammered, I'll start at 120 grit. I don't have to do that too much, but I have in the past, and then 220, 320, and then that was 1500 there I just did. So I just kind of moved through this. These are, you can buy these in two different places. You can get them on StewMac. You can also, I think I actually got these on Amazon. They last a good long time. And again, really all you missed, I took the strings off earlier. You try to stay in the frame of the phone. Try to keep my hands out of the way. So really all you missed is I took the strings off of it earlier. I straightened out the neck. I've already straightened the neck, the truss rod, and all that. when you're doing a setup and you're doing fret work on it, you want to make sure your neck is perfectly straight so you can ensure that the frets are level. So I did that. I also, I mean, you should have seen it. It was awesome. It actually was. It was actually kind of boring, but so I use two different methods, and I'll do this again in other videos. If there's things that you all want me to zero in on, just let me know. Um, I I usually use just a typical art ruler. It's a super straight edge. I make sure that it's straight. And I also use a notched straight edge. So ideally I want both the fretboard and the frets to be level with the frets with one another, the fretboard with the frets. Everything should be level. But I mean, sometimes, I mean, this has been played since the 80s. So you may not be able to get that with the board. So I want the frets to be level. And this was the case. Like the board is just a little bit off from the frets, but the frets are all completely level with one another now. Sorry if I'm in the camera, out of the camera. I'm trying to keep arms back, and this is something that's definitely easier standing up over top of it. There are things that I find when I'm working that it's easier to do standing up than sitting down, and vice versa. When I start making adjustments, I'd rather sit down and work on it. Sitting down where I'm kind of at eye level, I think you get a better field of view on that. All right. So we went all the way to 12,000. When I get to 12,000, I mean it's pretty much, I mean you can barely feel any grit on microfiber at 12,000. And the frets are good and shiny. I'll hold those up in a second, but I'm not quite done yet. Sorry for looking at my rear end, but I also like to take quadruple lot. So now keep in mind, so we've taken and we've crowned these, we've leveled them, we've crowned them, and I took microfiber and I went down the fretboard with it. Good note. If you ever do this, my first time doing this, and if the person ever watches it, he'll laugh at me again. So I took my PRS guitar in, and for the initial training, I did this years ago, and it makes sense to me that you would, if you're using microfiber, you would sand down the fret, if you will. So I did that, and the person that was teaching came in and he goes, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm sanding the frets, like you told me to." And he said, "But you put scratches in your fretboard," and it looked like hell. So I sat there for about 2 hours, I think. And the frets were fine. They're metal. They were fine. So I took I have one right here, just a razor blade, and I had to hold it at a 90 and scrape the entire fretboard to get all of my marks out of it, which was an important lesson. So I learned a lesson that day. So anyways, where I was going with that, when you're going down the fretboard back and forth with your microfiber, you're putting micro scratches, if you will, down the fretboard. So you can kind of feel that when you're doing bends with the strings. It kind of feels a little bit gritty. So I like to take quadruple lot, and then I usually use polish, and I'll just run those scratches back down the fret so you don't feel it. And it seems to work. And now it kind of explains why I have the pickup covered with tape, because there inevitably is going to be maybe a little bit of quadruple lot steel wool, or there's going to be little dust, if you will, from the metal, from the microfiber, but they're shining up. This is something I'm sure you'll be able to see in the camera when I get it done. If you're watching this, if you hang with it this long, because it's boring. But if a tech is doing the job right. I'm not saying that I am, I'm not disparaging any other techs out there, but they should take their time, make sure, like when I look at it, it looks shiny. I'm not seeing any divots in it. I'm seeing a nice crown on it. I'm taking my time with this, because it really pays off in the end. And, the I think the more or the less friction you have on the frets, maybe the longer the frets will last, right? Because you're gliding over top of them. So, but if you're really digging in, man, it is what it is. That's why they make frets. You can get a refret. So I'm just kind of moseying down here. I know this seems like a long process when I'm not running my mouth and trying to figure out what I'm trying to stay out of the camera. I feel like my body's contorted. You can usually skip right down through here. I think one of the I always think this, like if I was ever teaching somebody how to do this, what would I say? It's like if you ever came up and said like, what is one of the most important tools in the guitar shop? I think it's the vacuum, man. My shop vac, I think I'm using that thing all the time. So, and I'm working, I mean, as you see, I don't work in like a warehouse space. I'm working in a finished space. So, if I get in here making too much dust or whatever, then I'm probably going to have issues with my better half. And so she's my partner in crime. She does all my paperwork. She does all the initial measurements. She does all the paperwork, all the financial side, all the parts that I suck at. She does. She's really good at it. So that, and then I am going to take. Actually, I'm going to need that guy back. That's right. Just take a little dab. Let's spill this stuff. I know some people may look at this and go, that's a little over the top. Some people also use Dremels. I don't have any problem. I've done that before too, but I sometimes I think if you don't like, why go over the top if you don't have to? And sometimes you can risk, if you have it turned up too high with that wheel on it, you can risk heating up the fret. I don't necessarily want to do that. This works fine. Because they're already smooth, they're already shiny. I'll hold it up here in just a second. I'll tell you some of the products that I use also. I mean, so far you've seen, I've told you about the microfiber. I use for polish lizard spit. I like that a lot. I know a lot of people, especially a lot of guys my age, have always used lemon oil, whichever way you want to call it, on their fretboards. I used that for a while. And to tell you the truth, I like F1 oil so much better. So much better. So much more. So much more better. Saved you again from that. So again, this is, if you were wondering what I was talking about, F1 oil. I love it. You can use it not only on fretboards, but acoustic guitars with like natural wood, anything that's natural wood. This stuff works great on. I usually take it on a couple, just little small beads. Then I keep a rag over here. Usually wash that like once a week. You can see it's staying pretty good from the F1 oil. So I don't let too much accumulate on here, but there's always like a little bit of residual left in there, except for when I wash it, of course. Coming along nicely. The other thing that the F1 oil that I have found is good for is if you have uncovered pickups, man, it just takes the pickup bobbins. And actually, anything is plastic around here, I'll take it, run it around there real quick. Does a really great job on that also, in addition to the wood. So let's see. Now we have. I'm gonna give it again. This lizard spitz. Just give it a little spritz. I'm getting underneath of where the stop tail and the bridge are going. I'll give it a once over cleaning. This thing has a little bit of smegma on it. It's a technical term. Hold that thought. And this customer likes String Joys 942s. These are the signatures. These are fantastic strings. I like them a lot. It's really interesting. I observed when I first started doing this, like I put a lot of strings on a lot of guitars. And I noticed that when I would stretch these in one time, it seems to me like they wouldn't require a whole lot more stretching. They would be there. It wouldn't be a constant this fight of stretch it, tune it, stretch it, tune it. So we had Blake Weiland on the Guitar Gear Locker, which if you're still watching or if you are watching, Guitar Gear Locker I do with Alex Books. Good friend, phenomenal guitar player. He's in the death metal world. He is in Immolation Band. You can catch us live on Thursday nights, talking all things music and gear and things like that. So what I was getting at is we have Blake Weiland on. He is part owner or half owner, actually, of Stringjoy. And we were talking about their process with Stringjoy. And I told him what I observed. Well, you can tell this is an older guitar because the newer stop tails are just so light. They're feather light. This one actually has a little meat to it. Actually, also, on another note, FU-Tone, I'm a FU-Tone dealer. FU-Tone has brass bridges for Gibson style guitars, and they have a lot of mass to them also, of course, because they're made out of brass, but they're chrome color, gold color, things like that. So anyways, talking to Blake Weiland, and I told him what I observed with the strings, and I said, man, is that just in my head? Because, sometimes guitar stuff can just be in our head. Like, is the tone better? Is it wood? Is it this? Debate. So I said, but I noticed when I stretch them in, they're just kind of in tune. They're there. I said, is that just me? Or is that true? And he goes, well, the difference between the way Stringjoy winds and the way most of the other companies wind is when they're doing the wound wires or they are wires, but the wound strings, they do it under tension. So the others apparently don't do that. So he said what I was noticing is factual, and that's a thing because it's already been under tension. So it's just going back to where I guess the memory is. So, anyways, interesting little fact on Stringjoys. I like them a lot. I also like Ernie balls. I carry Ernie balls. There's other strings that I like. The Ernie Ball paradigms are really good. So you notice I string the guitar usually with the strings away from the guitar, and then I pop them on. So again, I mean, some of this is just me. There's really no right or wrong to it. Um, I like to keep everything away from the guitar as much as I can. Just gonna get this cinched up and then raise it. And we'll get that guy tightened back up. So I'm fortunate enough to have locking tuners on this, which, the big debate, we have tone debates, you have debates on things with guitars. The big debate, so does or do locking tuners make a guitar stay in tune better? Is it better for tuning stability? Um, I would argue that it's really, well, everything working together to make it stay in tune. The nut has a lot to do with it staying in tune or not. But I can tell you one thing is factual across the board. This is not one of those things that's up for debate. It's definitely easier for the technician. No debating that. But there are other ways that you can string guitars that are pretty fast. We'll go over those and maybe some future shows. So we're gonna get this just tuned up, and then what I do, I told everybody like the first time our first show that these were going to be like quick hits, like usually lunchtime. Today was lunchtime when I did it. I figure everybody's at their desk, at their jobs, whatever, pretending to work, so they can pretend to work and watch me. So I'll give them something to do, something to laugh at, anyways. But yeah, so I'm trying to keep these like, 20, 30 minutes. This one's been a little longer. So what I do after I string them is I will kind of bring it up to tune and check my string height. And then I like to let it set. I also cheat. So just down and dirty to get it close to tuning, I'll use a snark, which the older snarks I like a little bit. They're not ideal for doing intonation. I'll tell you what I use here in a second. Like I said, I'm gonna just get this close. So this is just my thing. Maybe everybody does it. I don't know. I generally will not. I generally will not do a same day. I have done same day setups for people that really need them, but I like to let the guitar set out for a while. Not outside, of course. Not outside, but I like to let it settle out. So I just, to kind of recap, not to beat a dead horse. So I've just adjusted the neck. I've just, worked on the frets. I've done a lot to it. So what I want to do is I want to get string tension on it again, close to in tune, and we're pretty darn close right there. I'll bag on snark here in a second. So I get it close in tune, and then I'm just gonna let it set. Like the action's actually pretty good on it, but I want it to settle out. I want the neck to kind of like get used to the new strings, get used to what we just did. We just moved it around. It used to be a tree. It's wood. And then I come back later and I stretch out the strings more, because I haven't done it yet. So I'll stretch out the strings and then I'll bring it back up to tune again. And then that's where I'm gonna, do the intonation and all that good stuff, do the final tunings. And I think that's helped that. I mean, no technician likes to have a return, like somebody coming back because you didn't get it right. You want to get it right the first time. So I think that's kind of helped me to keep that at a minimum. Um, because I let it settle out and then I adjust it the next day. So uh, so that I think that's my way of doing it. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the right way, but it does seem to work for me. So I said I wanted to bag. I so I don't think I said this. I used to be a firefighter, so we talk a little bit of shit once in a while. So I can't help it sometimes. So plus I'm a shit talker anyways. But one thing is like the old Snart tuners used to be actually pretty good. And this time last year, I broke one. I had had it for years. I had two that I was using. I broke one and then accidentally put one in a case, I think. Anyways, it disappeared. It's gone. So I ordered new ones, and the new ones are number one, rechargeable. This is one of the older ones that somebody didn't want anymore, so I snagged it from them. But the new ones are rechargeable, but they're just not as accurate, I think. So it seems like they have wild swings, like they'll wildly swing from sharp to flat. It's hard to get them zeroed in. They're just a pain. I end up using like when I'm really trying to zero things in, I kind of swear by the stroke tuner. Get that a little close. That's the one I use in here. You can see strobe on it. I've tried the strobe clip-on tuners. They're not too bad, but I mean it's a clip-on tuner. So it is what it is. Ideally, when you're doing setup and intonation, you want to be in a playing position, and you want to be with good tuner, good solid tuner. So help you get things right. But anyways, this one, I think I'm on the point now where I'm already running at 37 minutes. I've kind of gone over what I said I wanted to do. I want to stay like 20, 30 minutes, usually around 30 minutes. Like I said, sorry we missed the first part of this. I hope, in the future, maybe I'll have better camera angles. Right now, I'm using the same one we use for the Guitar Gear Locker podcast. So, which is all stationary over there. So, seems like, I can see me. Hopefully, you can see me. Hopefully, it's all right. But I'd like to eventually get something that points down. So, when we're doing things like this, we can have a better vantage point. One thing that I do want to go over, for a future show, I don't know if I'm going to do another little shot tomorrow or wait till Monday, but one of the upcoming ones I want to talk about, products that I like a lot. I'll only talk about what I like. I only carry what I like. If I don't carry it, it's because I don't really care for it. But one is the fishless wire or fishless Fishman wireless system. We'll talk about that in an upcoming show soon. I want to talk about the GraphTech unlocking nut. I like that a lot. I have it on one of my guitars out here. I'll bring that in here, put it on the bench, and we'll do some stuff with it next week so we can see the unlocking nut and see how it works. I think it's really interesting. I'm not a big fan of fine tuners. They're kind of counterintuitive to me. They don't come as natural as they do to most people. I'm also left-handed, play right-handed, so it makes it even a little weirder. So yeah, so those are all things I want to bring up. I want to bring up some jobs. I have some cool guitars I'm getting ready to do. I'm getting ready to do a double neck. Maybe that'll be a upcoming video also. A double neck is bass over 6-string guitar. So I get cool stuff in here. So I like to kind of showcase it. And also, my customers can tune in and they can, kind of see what I'm doing to their guitar and get a heads up when it's ready. So anyways, happy Friday to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope I didn't bore you stiff, but it just kind of is what it is. That's a bright light. It is what it is. It looks kind of boring, but I think once you get into it, if it's something that you're interested in, I like it a lot. It keeps me occupied. I find guitars interesting and keeping them adjusted and things like that, and keeping them to their maximum playability. So good stuff. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.